In this module, I'll be talking about major phase needs and deliverables. So after completing this session, you'll be able to describe major phase deliverables and the major phase steps from an integrated enterprise excellence, define, measure, analyze, improve, control, or DMAIC roadmap. We'll also be talking about the typical actions that need to be undertaken within the major phase. So now, within the IEEE system, I have some additional drill downs in the major phase. Now, the reason for this is in 1999, when I was putting together the book Implementing Six Sigma, I tried to put the tools within the roadmap phase where GE actually did. Now, GE was putting some tools within the major phase that to me didn't sound like major. We had flow charting and FMEA, failure modes and effects analysis, measurement system analysis, and so on. So because of that, that's when I broke it out into additional drill down steps. Now, Lean was not included in my book, Implementing Six Sigma, in 1999, but in the second edition it was. So in 2003, I added Lean assessment to this drill down. So now in the major phase, basically, we have quite a few different items that we're listing here as the key deliverables that we have that are shown: project plan, predictability statements, Lean assessment, and so on. Now, the predictability statements, I think, is a really important point, and also the capability. I've seen in a lot of traditional Lean Six Sigma report outs that's really not given a whole lot of emphasis, and I'm suggesting that's a really important piece of it. And the way we report it out is a 30,000-foot level report out on how we do that. So let's look at the various activities that we have. We've got plan project, metrics, baseline the project, Lean assessment, measurement system analysis, and wisdom of the organization. Now, I'm going to kind of walk through each one at a high level, and then later we'll be getting into more details of what's actually needs to be undertaken within each of these various steps. So one of the assumptions is that when we get into this roadmap, the project has been well defined. The scope is set. The business project has been judged worthy of addressing. So what we want to do now is generate a project execution plan. We also want to make a statement of how our process is performing and put it in a format that we're measuring the overall output of the process associated with this particular project from a process point of view. We want to make a predictive statement and capability statements when it's appropriate. We also want to assess the measurement system. A lot of times the measurement system can be the biggest issue that we might have for a particular response, and we want to look at that. We want to then create a comprehensive list of possible causes for the problem. So with this, we're going to get into the wisdom of the organization can help us with that. So if we look at the first piece of this is plan projects and metrics. So these are some of the steps that I've put together in the overall roadmap, and that you can find it where it's noted in the volume 3. The typical actions we need to undertake is we want to talk to customers and stakeholders. We really want to look at linking our financial measurements to what we're actually doing on this project. So then people at all levels in the organization could see the benefits of what we want to do. Now, we could also look and see if secondary metrics might be useful. So we could look at overall defect rates and things like that, or defects per million opportunities if that looks appropriate, and then create an overall project plan of getting her done. Now, if we move on to baseline project, there's basically two steps that I'm looking at having relative to creation of 30,000-foot level reporting. One is to see if the process is stable from a high level point of view, and if it is, we'll make a prediction statement of how we're performing. And that's what I think is really important to use and create a baseline for our project. The other thing we'd like to look at is what is the cost of doing nothing differently within the overall project. So if we move on to lean assessments, then we want to look at see if lean tools are appropriate for our particular project. Sometimes lean tools are more appropriate than other times. So if we're looking at lead times and things like that, where we're looking at workflows, then hey, lean looks like a good tool that we might want to use, because what we want to use is the right tool for improving that metric. That's what we really want to focus on. Measurement system analysis is something we ought to be looking at, and either whether we do a formal measurement system analysis on Gauge R&R, but we still might be doing it, or think about at least, do we have good data integrity? Is there some issues with actually measuring our system in inconsistencies? And we want to address those issues. Now, wisdom of the organization is basically putting ideas together on what we might do to improve. The 4 pieces that I structurally look at here is a flow charting, cause and effect diagram, cause and effect matrix, and an FMEA. However, that's not all the tools that's going to be listed. And then we can do some prioritization to give us some insight to what we might look at from a more later analyze phase. So the output from the measure phase, we want to have a thorough understanding of the process. We want to look at its predictability and capability, and we want to look at what's actually happened in the process. And we want to maybe look at flow chartings or even a value stream map. And then we want to also have a listing of the possible causes that drive the problem that we're looking at. We can also perhaps come up with some low-hanging fruit ideas that can be implemented in a very short period of time. So in this module, we talked about measurement phase deliverables and tools and steps of the measurement phase. In addition, typical actions of the measure phase.